everyone? Welcome to the Dr. Quack House Calls. I'm Dr. Quack, and today we have a special guest here for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring him on, Bad Boy Carnage.
Hey, what's happening, Doc? How's it going, buddy?
What is going on?
Oh, man, nothing, man. Just getting ready for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that other stuff. Even though I got only $1.75 on my bank account, I'm still ready to go, man.
That is on it, man. Yeah, if you have any questions or anything you would like to ask Bad Boy Carnage, put it in the comments here. Definitely, we would love to answer it. But, you know, I want you to be able to come out here and tell everybody about yourself, what you've done in this business of professional wrestling.
Wow, I guess the question should be, what haven't I done in this business? I've been in it 30 years, man. I started at the bottom, got my way all the way to the top. You know, I've done ring crew. I've been a booker, a promoter. I've owned my own wrestling promotion in Virginia. I've pretty much done it all. Wrestler. I mean, I don't know what more I could do in this business, man. You know, I've been on TV. I've been in the Hall of Fame. I've been multi-time champion. I mean, it's been a great ride, and I don't see it ending anytime soon, man.
And you've been going strong for what, 27, I believe?
93, 30 years. This is my 30th anniversary.
Yeah, 30 years. Wow. I mean,
yeah.
And you're still going, correct? You're still out there wrestling.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm still out there as much as I can, man. I'm doing Comic Cons. I'm doing Collectors Fest. I'm doing wrestling shows. I'm doing great podcasts like this one. And, you know, I'm still out there, man. I'm loving every minute of it.
Now, my question is, because after 30 years, I mean, your body has to have gone through a lot. I mean, what kind of effects has happened to you in professional wrestling, like physical-wise, mental-wise?
Man, I'm going to tell you, the Lord has blessed me, my friend. I'm knocking on wood right now. I've only had one broken bone in my whole career, and that was on my hand, and that was a mistake that I made body slamming somebody. So that's been the only major injury. I've had my head busted open. Back in 2002, I wrestled Abdullah the Butcher down in North Carolina. He sent me out on a stretcher. I pretty much passed out from the loss of blood. But other than that, man, I've been pretty solid.
What was that like working Abby?
Dude, it was because I had never met him before. So, you know, here we are in the back, and he says, you know, I carry the fork, and I'm gonna bust you open and all this. I'm like, yeah, I understand all that, man. He said, but don't worry, it's just gonna be just a little touch on the forehead. He said, you'll be fine. Well, he's a liar, but because he's a damn liar. But we got in there. It was funny because it was a tag match. It was me. I don't know if you know Rick Lake out of North Carolina, the Beastmaster. But I was a heel. I was a champion and a heel at the time. So it was me and Rick Link, who was my adversary. We teamed, and Abdullah was actually the baby face, along with a kid named Brad Hunter. And so by the time the match ended, both Rick Link and Abdullah formed a team and beat the crap out of me and Brad Hunter. We turned on everybody, got turned on, and he just took the fork. I mean, his pictures I have out, but he did it's hard to see, but it was like an upside down 7 all the way up into my head. And like I said, I lost a lot of blood. I pretty much passed out. They actually physically carried me out on a stretcher. And it was probably the worst beating I ever took. And not only once they beat me, they both Abdullah took my belt, my championship, and beat me with it even after the match was over. So it was pretty brutal.
I can imagine. So I mean, how was wrestling back then when you first started to today? What are some of the similarities and differences?
Oh, wow. There's a major difference, man. I mean, first and foremost, the business was protected, where now it's pretty much not. I mean, it's just too much, all the trolls and everything else, and the internet. It's just pretty much everything is out there now, you know. And but back then it was like a real club of brothers and sisters that you had to be like initiated in, you know what I mean? You had to be accepted in there. You just can't walk in the back door, you know, like Logan Paul and all these other punks. And so it was very protected, and I liked that. It took me a long time to even get into the business, so um, I mean, that was pretty much the main thing. I mean, other than that, I mean, it was actually psychology back in the day, which they don't have now. I mean, that's completely gone. I mean, now you can see them put like, 5 or 10 finishers in an 8-minute match. I mean, come on. I mean, back in the day, you hit one finisher one time, that was it. But now between super kicks and 20 million finishers in a match, it's gotten it ridiculous enough now that it's not believable anymore. And I think that's a major deal for me. And because I'm old school, man, and I still kayfabe, I still protect the business when I can, and I still I go in and out of the building just as a wrestler, and I stick to it, and I'll always do that because even though the business is as exposed as it is, I still got to do my part and keep it old school, man.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up Logan Paul. He's now retired from boxing and says he's going 100% to wrestling. That's what he's going to do. I mean, how do you feel about his ring work?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. He does have some skill about him. He's a bit of a daredevil. He does have some skill, but I think the biggest mistake WWE made was putting that belt on him over Ray. I think if it would have been somebody else, like maybe an Austin Theory or somebody like that, like a Mid-Carter, I think that held it, I would have been okay with it. But to put a Hall of Famer and a legend like Rey Mysterio and make him job to Logan Paul, I think it's a bit of a disgrace and a black eye to the business.
I mean, yeah, I can see your point on that. I'm sorry, my my computer was acting a little goofy there. But so you've wrestled a lot of matches in your career. What would you say is your favorite match you've ever had?
Wow, favorite match. I tell you, probably my favorite match. You mean the match itself, or who I wrestled in the match?
Who you wrestled? Who was your favorite opponent?
I've got to say the Honky Tonk Man. He was like my first main event back in like '98. And we were at a VFW hall, and it probably had to be over 500 people in there. And they told me I was going to wrestle him in the main event. And it was just because I had met him a couple of times before. So to actually get in there and ring with him, because he was pretty hot at the time. He had just come off of WWE like maybe a year or so. So he was still fresh in everybody's mind. So I think that was probably one of my favorite matches because it was my first main event against the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of, well, not no more, but it was at the time. And so it was a big deal for me. That was probably my first biggest match. And then my second favorite would have to be in 2002 when I wrestled the Iron Sheik down in North Carolina. I was the heavyweight champion at the time, and I ended up winning the match through DQ, but I still won. So I did get a victory over the Iron Sheik. So that was pretty cool.
What was it like working with Sheik there? What did he was he like real funny towards you? Was he stiff? How was he?
He in the back, he was very funny, dude. I mean, because the whole deal with him and Hulk Hogan and everything, oh my God, that is so real. It is just hilarious when he starts talking about Hulk Hogan, because he gets really fired up about that, man. And it's just hilarious. But in the ring, he was very professional. It was he had a couple of guys on the outside with him, like his manager and stuff. So they would interfere and everything else and stuff. But it was really good. It was a good, solid match. Like I said, I won by DQ because one of his guys interfered in the match. But it was good. It was really good, and he was a great professional.
Definitely. I got a question though, because you transitioned into acting. Tell me how that went down.
Oh man, I've always wanted to do some acting because I did back between I want to say probably about 2008 to like 2012, something like that. I worked when I was in Washington D.C. I worked for the Washington Redskins at the time, not the Commanders, and they had a weekly show that they did on Saturday nights. It was called Redskins Late Night. And so it would be like there was a comedian called Chris Paul. He hosted it, and we would have one of the Redskins on. They would do a little Q&A, but then we would also do like some funny skits, and it was like a puppet on a show. And so that was kind of like my first taste of it, doing this weekly show, because it was live. We did it live, like at a bar. So we did the show live. Well, no, we didn't do it live. They taped it, but we did it live in front of people. So that was really cool. But then about a few months ago, I saw an ad on Facebook they're looking for actors at the Murder Mystery Company here in New Orleans, which is one of the biggest murder mysteries. They're all over the country, but this one here is like the biggest one. And so I went. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make this. And so I went for the tryout. Went for the second tryout. There had to be about 30 people, man. I didn't think for sure I was going to make it. They ended up giving me a call back. I've went through 3 training classes, learned how to do characterization and improv and things like that. And so I'm working now on getting my first booking to do my first gig with the Murder Mystery Company here in New Orleans. So it should be pretty exciting. I'm really excited about it. It's kind of a part-time thing, and I'm just looking forward to my first one, man. So we'll see what happens. Keep you posted.
Is acting different from professional wrestling, like as far as, emotions, things like that? Do you feel any differences?
No, because it's kind of like impromptu, a lot just like in wrestling, where you got to do stuff on the spot. You're given you given as a character, you're given like clues, because it's like a murder mystery thing. So you got to get into a character. You never know who you're going to be until you get there. And so you have to get into that character by looking at some of their bio that's given to you in writing. And so you just got to take that information and run with it. So it's kind of fun because you get to kind of create your little character with it.
Definitely. Let me ask this here, because I know you've been around this for quite a while. And back in the days, I'm sure they were more harsh, but the best rib you've ever seen pulled. Or you pulled yourself. Either way.
I don't know if I could. Well, I don't know, man. I guess I could probably talk about it. It had to be with Tony Atlas, because me and him traveled a little bit together back in the Carolinas between 2000 and 2003. We were both working for a promotion down there doing TV every week. So they would always put me with him, and we would kind of travel together and things like that. And so I know we were in the back room the one time, and all of a sudden I heard Tony walking around. He was behind me. So he was coming up behind me, and I hear him, y'all see it? I lost it. Y'all find it? And we're like, what the hell is he talking about? And so I turn around and look, and he's got just a towel on, and he's got his junk tucked in there. And he's like, did anybody find it? I think I lost it. And so he's walking around the back, and I just turn around. I'm, oh, jeez. I'm like, come on, man. So I mean, that was pretty funny. I mean, because all the guys they're sitting back there. They had like first met him. They didn't know what the hell to do. They're like, here's this 270-pound muscle dude walking around saying that he lost his junk, and if anybody's found it. And so that was pretty funny.
Anybody ever pull a rib on you?
On me? No, man. I've never had the pleasure of anybody really messing with me like that. I wish they would, but we had a lot of guys, but they weren't really as funny in the back. You know what I mean? It was like the big names that would kind of be funny. I know there was this one time we were in the back of this young kid, big muscle-bound kid, no brains. And we had Baby Doll was in the back room, and she's like sitting behind me. And he keeps staring at her. He's eyeballing her really hard, right? And she notices it. And finally she just puts her hand out. She goes, come on, let's go. I see he's eyeballing me. She goes, just pull it out, put it right here. Let me see what you got. Come on, let's go. And dude, he lost all the color in his face. His mouth was open. He didn't know what the hell to do. He just got up and walked away, dude. I'm sitting there. I'm just busting out laughing because she's like, come on, man, I ain't playing. Just put it right here. Let me see what you got. And I'm like, oh, man.
called him out.
She called him right out, dude. And we had to have at least 20 to 30 people in the locker room, and dude was just busted.
I could bet. He probably was all red, embarrassed and all, man. Oh my
Dude,
God.
he didn't know what to do, man. I mean, because I think he was only there. I think that was only like his second time or so working with the company, and he was just some juiced up, musclehead that didn't have a damn clue, and he just trying to be funny, and he got busted out. So it was pretty funny after that, because we would mess with him. We'd say, "Come on, man, pull it out. Let's see." So.
Yeah, I mean, and you've wrestled a lot of places and everything, and you eventually got into the IPWA, the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. And tell me, who called you and told you about this, and how did it go when you got inducted?
It was a promotion in New Jersey. Doc, man? There was a guy named Doc who was actually in part of the real Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame up in Amsterdam, New York. He had a promotion in New Jersey. Him and Jose Rodriguez was running this promotion there. And I had wrestled like one time, and they had called me up and they said, "Hey, Carnage, we want to induct you into our Hall of Fame. You're going to be inducted with the Super Destroyers from ECW and Nikolai Volkov." I'm like, "Oh, man, that's amazing, dude." I said, "I appreciate that." And a couple other guys. And so, Ron Starr, he's another guy from
yeah, that was my last match, Ron Starr.
Oh, really? Yeah, I worked him one time, I think, after that Hall of Fame thing. And so all of us were being inducted. I'm like, wow, that's just amazing. So I went up to New Jersey. We wrestled that night. Doc gave all the plaques to everybody. He put our names and everything. They were on the wall there in the school and training center. And so I donated one of my wrestling shirts, autographed and things, and I gave it to him to put up. And so that was pretty amazing, because I was not expecting that. And for them to call me to go all the way up to New Jersey to accept that, along with Super Destroyers, who were friends of mine. I'd worked them a few times, and Nikolai, who I've worked probably 3 or 4 times. And so it was just amazing to be a part of that group.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so you go from there, right? You're in the Hall of Fame. You've done a lot of great things, and you work at Win. Can you tell the audience about Win?
Win was a nonprofit, because I would always do like fundraisers. You know how wrestling promotions are always doing benefits and fundraisers and all this stuff, and then they just kind of give money to the whoever it is. Well, back in 2017, it was a friend of mine, Jay Pageant, who ran Carb Kings, which was like a car show, and he did rockabilly. He was a drummer. And so they put on a lot of events, and they would raise money as well. And so I'm like, "Hey, man," I said, "I want to start a nonprofit." He said, "Well, come join with me." He said, "We'll work together, and we'll put on events, rock and wrestling events or rockabilly events and things like that, and we'll help people." I'm like, "Okay, cool, man." So we started that. I came up with the name Win. It's actually wrestlers helping those in need. So, but I shortened it to Win. And so we started doing that. We did about 2 or 3 shows to begin with, and they were excellent. We raised some money, but instead of just doing it for like a group or a company or anything like that, what we would do is I would go out and find one special needs kid, whether cerebral palsy, wheelchair, whatever it was, and we would find out what that kid needed to change their lives for the positive. And we would go out and get that with the money that we raised. Just to give you an example, our first one was in Ohio. There was a young boy. He was like 2 years old. I knew his mom. She was my valet for a little while when I was in Ohio years before. And so we kept in touch, and she was telling me that her son, when he was born, he had something wrong with his throat, that he could not speak. And so I said, "Okay, well, what do you need that we can help your son?" And so she gave us this idea about this machine that you can buy, and he would push the buttons to let his mom know what he needed from the board. And so we raised, I don't know, it was like $600 or $900. I can't remember what we did on that event. I had Jay purchase the item, and we drove out to Ohio to personally give it to this young man. he now speaks perfectly fine. Now he's probably about 12 or so now, but to get him started with that and help him learn to speak was just one of the amazing things that we did. And so that was what we did. We kind of picked out one kid, and then we kind of got what they needed and then helped them to change their lives by that item instead of just giving money.
Definitely. I mean, that's a great thing that you're doing there, for people. I mean, a lot of feds, you see them all the time. You see the fly-by-night promotions that don't really care about anybody but themselves, and they move out, and you're doing great stuff. That is amazing.
Well, you gotta, I've learned in this business since I've been doing it so long, man, you got to use your superpowers for good. And a lot of people do not. A lot of people are selfish, like you said, and they only worry about themselves and put money in their pockets and stuff. But, me being in a wrestling business this long, it's not about the money. It's never been about the money. It's been about me living my dream and being able to be a role model for my kids, to let them know and to tell them that you can go out and do whatever you want to do in life. Just give it 100%, and trust me, you'll do it and never give up. That was my whole goal, being in this business. It wasn't about being famous, being rich or anything like that. It was about being a role model, not only for my kids, but all the fans and the kids that come to all the shows. And that's what makes a difference in my life.
That makes it awesome. That really does. I want to talk to you about MomoCon, where you were there this year. I heard something that you thought it was something different than what it was.
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, man. Like I said, I've done plenty of Comic-Cons in my career, but MomoCon, when they told me, because I had never met the guy before, it was Eric Nelson, great promoter, and he calls me up and he goes, hey, I'm doing a thing in Atlanta, and I want you to be a part of it. It's like a 4-day, like a WrestleCon thing, Comic-Con. I'm like, man, I've never heard of something like that before. I said, it sounds pretty cool, man. So we went out there I was out there for the whole week, and it just blew me away, dude. It was just, I had never been to something that big. I mean, it was huge. And I heard while I was there that it's like the 4th largest in the country. And trust me, it is.
It's big, yeah.
And it was huge, man. I mean, it was on all different levels. We wrestled probably for the 4 days. I think we did like 2 shows a day. I think we did 8 shows for the 4 days we were there. I wrestled, I think, 3 of the days. One day they didn't use me, and so I just got to play around with all the Comic-Con people, things like that. But it was pretty awesome, dude. We had Kane was there. We had Mr. Hughes from WCW and all, and we had Sergeant Slaughter was there. So we had some big names on the card, and it was just a great time, dude. I know there was some rumor that there might be another one this year, but then not. And so I was a little bummed, but hey, if he ever calls me up, Eric, if you're out there listening, brother, you ever need me, just holler.
Oh, I'm sure he will, definitely. One more thing I want to talk to you about before I get into actual WWE and stuff like that. Your clothing line. Tell the people about that.
Yeah, it's called Iconic One. Here it is right here. These are my shirts. I come up with all my designs. I started probably, I don't know, it has to be at least 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago I started. And I create all the designs myself. Then I have a company that screen prints them for me, so they're all screen printed, no iron-on crap. And I just wanted it to be something positive. I see all these clothing lines, and to be perfectly honest, I had a crush on the Iconics when with WWE, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. But I said, Iconics, I like that. So I kind of took the Iconic, but then I added a 1 to it because I figure Iconic One. It's about being positive, being the best you can be, just being the best, and the 1 is you. So that was my thinking behind the thing of it. And so, like I said, I just every year I come out with new designs. I create all of them, and it's just something fun that I like to do, man. I have had sweatpants, I've had hats, I've had like little shoulder bags. I've had all kinds of stuff under the Iconic One logo, and I just keep coming up with new stuff. And so it's just a fun thing for me because it lets my creative side come out. Because I love doing merch. I've been doing merch ever since I started in this business, and I'm just excited for it. So yeah, thank you.
No, definitely no problem. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to go through some rapid fire questions before we wrap up here. I want to talk about, what's going on in the professional world today. Talking about Sting's retirement. How did that make you feel seeing that? And do you have a favorite Sting moment?
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I was actually at the Great American Bash in 1990 when he beat Flair for the title in Baltimore, Maryland. I was there on that pay-per-view, and that was pretty amazing. That was two of the greats going at it, and I think that was the torch passing from Flair to Sting. And when because I follow AEW quite often, and when I heard about his retirement, the first thing I was thinking of, could AEW afford to bring in The Undertaker and let him have that match that the fans wanted and never got with WWE? Could they do that? Will they? I don't know. I would love to see that. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know who his last opponent's going to be, but I just hope that it goes out on a good note, that it's somebody really worth being in there for his last match.
Definitely. And speaking of that, the Endeavor people buying out the WWE, TKO, Vince no longer there. Do you feel that's a positive or a negative?
I think it's definitely a positive. But then again, we don't know. We don't know what the long-term effects are. The effects now is that Vince is pretty much out of the picture. So that's a positive. Now, how UCW or UFC is going to use WWE down the road, we're going to have to wait to be seen, because they could. They're giving Triple H run of it right now, but who knows what's going to happen? And I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see, but we could just only hope that things stay positive.
Definitely. Do you feel that wrestling fans' expectations are too high, too low, or just right?
Wow.
You see the IWC.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would think that their expectations, I would probably have to say middle of the road, because I think that it can't be. Back in the day, in the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s stuff, I would say high. But now with all the trolls and all the rag stuff out there and all the internet stuff and the rumors and all this, and as much as they've given out to too much that's out there, I don't think their expectation is too high right now. I think it's kind of torn. I think you have fans that still love it for not so much for the win and losing. I think it's more they just want to see their favorite person, I think, out there. So they love it from that side. But then you got the other people that I think kind of tolerate it. But it's just not what it used to be, back in the 80s and 90s. It will never. The Monday Night Wars is something that if you miss that, you miss the greatest time in all of wrestling, and you will never see it again.
That I agree with, definitely. That was a fun time during the wrestling days. So real quick before we go off here, any advice for the rookies in professional wrestling, somebody want to enter the business?
Yeah, don't. No, I'm just kidding.
I have heard that at least 8 times.
Yeah, if your only goal in wrestling is to be in a WWE, don't get in it. I will tell you that right now. The chances of you getting in WWE are slim and none. I would suggest that if you want to be a professional wrestler, do it because you want to live your dream. Do it because you want to go out there and entertain the fans. Do it because you want to make the people that you work with look just as good as you. And if you're not doing it for those few reasons, and I could go on, then don't bother getting into it. Don't come into it if you have an ego. Don't come into it if you're selfish. Don't come into it, again, if your only goal is to be a WWE superstar. So it's just don't do it. do it for the right reasons.
Definitely. And where can we find you next? What's the next show you got?
Oh, the next show I got is in Mississippi, West Point, Mississippi. It's December 30th. It's for OCW, sorry, Old School Championship Wrestling, a promotion I helped start and created the name for it and everything, along with Terry Boykin and Dan Harold, Voodoo, and David Echoes. The three of us, we run the promotion, and we got a show the 30th. It's our last show for the year. Next year, we're going to start running quite often. I did, however, before I go today, I noticed you had a guest on that had his championship belt. He had it while he was doing the interview, I think. I had seen something like that. And so I wanted to top that because I wanted to wear both of mine on your show before I go. So that way everybody can see what a real two-time champion is.
Those are pretty belts.
Not one belt, but I got two up. So here we are. So I just wanted to do that. So I appreciate that.
Definitely. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for coming on here, ladies and gentlemen. Bad Boy Carnage. Make sure you check him out. Check him out on his page, Carnage Perez. You can definitely check out the man.
Yes.
Our next guest will be Chris Whaley, the writer of The Masked Saint. He will be coming on Tuesday. And for that, I'm Dr. Quack. Thank you again, Bad Boy Carnage, for coming on, and we'll see you next time.
Peace out, brother.